You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there and welcome. I appreciate you tuning into this episode as always, whenever or wherever you are at this moment. I am going to dive right in today because if you heard the previous episode, you may have an awareness that I will be doing a series of let them concepts, not only here on this podcast, but I will also be offering some online events through the month of November. I will be doing this on Wednesday evenings, and there are 5 Wednesdays in November, so that is what we're going with. Yes, that does mean the day before Thanksgiving as well. I don't want to skip over that one. Some of us need a little love over the holiday too, right? So mark your calendars because we will start next Wednesday, November 3rd. The sign-up link is not quite ready at the time I am recording this, but you have 2 options to get the deets to sign up delivered to your inbox. The first option is to subscribe to this podcast. I will drop a quick bonus episode with the sign-up details. I will leave that up throughout the month because if you happen to catch this information and we've already started, joining late is not a problem at all. The second option, join the What Lights You Up Facebook group. Sorry to all of you Instagram junkies, but Facebook really does have a strong group feature. They've been stepping that up lately, and I'm really digging all of the options. Anyway, that group is where I announce information first. And in fact, it's where you can go to have some input into what topics I'm going to cover. I just put a poll out there today, like literally for this series, the Just Let Them series or Let Them series. You can have some input into other things to let them. I have some ideas. I have some concepts in my mind. I've put them out there already. I'd love to hear yours. That's your opportunity to have some input into it, which is a perfect segue. Talking about polls, because today's topic is actually about elections. Yeah, we're going to go there. I will be taking my happy ass to a polling location later today, in fact. And Texas opened up to early voting on Monday of this week. I love early voting. Easy breezy in and out. At least it is here. You can even choose whatever polling location you want to go to. I know that is not the case in every state. It isn't the case with the state I moved from. I know that. You have one place to go. That is your assigned location, and you have a 12-hour window on one day to do it in. That might mean you are late for work, or that you have to leave early, or you have to take a long lunch. It's a lot. And plenty of us just aren't that committed to the election process. I want to point that out because it's true. Voter apathy and low turnout is a whole thing in the U.S. And I have to say that does baffle me because so many other countries do not afford their citizens the privilege of electing their own leadership at all levels. My gosh. Just needed to get that PSA out of my system. This is not going to be a lecture on exercising your privilege. I highly recommend that you do vote, and that is that. The bigger deal about election cycles rolling around is all of the rhetoric, the political ads consuming the entire commercial break, the mudslinging, and yes, the online arguments. Oh, that's the best part, isn't it? There are certainly some great memes and gaffes that come out of every election cycle. Fun times, especially in this timeline that we're on right now. Things are just getting crazier and crazier. People are getting amped up and emotional about their future and what they believe the society in which we live needs to look like in order to be whole, happy, and complete. However, we don't all see things the same, do we? That's the rub. And that's the beauty of being human. We are all unique. It can also be a source of pain when we have conflicting viewpoints with others, especially those we love dearly, our families, our closest friends. The same applies to religion, of course, and you know, growing up, and you may have heard this too, I heard this advice with frequency. Never talk about politics or religion if you want to have a good relationship. Yeah, I'm not always the best at avoiding hard conversations. Even before I became a coach, I was always super curious about things we weren't supposed to discuss. Talking about the hard things never really bothered me, but it bothers a lot of others. Oh, I know that it does. I used to be in that camp. Avoid, avoid, avoid. Avert your eyes. If you don't see or hear about it, it never happens. So funny, really. It's like we're little kids playing peekaboo or something. If I just cover my eyes, you won't see me. The reason that opposing beliefs so often flare up with topics like politics and religion is that those two concepts in particular have likely been nurtured for not only your entire life, but within generations before you. When we are young, we go along with it because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to listen to the adults and follow their guidance, take their advice. Then later in life, hopefully we become exposed to a more diverse worldview. We may meet people of other races and cultures that come with a completely different package of beliefs. In the beginning, they may seem a bit strange. Maybe they continue to be strange to you, or maybe over time you begin to shift your perspective. Maybe you even come to appreciate, if not fully embrace, the approaches that others take to the ways they worship or the ways they see a functional society. I'm just going to share with you today the number one reason that you become frustrated with those who hold opposing beliefs. I'm going to share that on this episode, and I'm going to expand much further next week when we meet online. So I hope you will join me. Okay, here it is. The number one reason. You ready? You see them as opposing, which means you see them as opponents. You see the holders of the beliefs as your opponents. It means you see them as adversaries, and that automatically creates tension. You're going to respond or react accordingly, fight or flight, freeze or fawn. More often these days, especially when it comes to politics, that's a full-on fight because of that tension that the opposition creates. It's very binary, our political leanings. That's how we see them. You're either right or you're wrong. You're either with me or against me. It's us or it's them. Very binary, either one or the other, when the reality is that the beliefs we form and how we come to have them in the first place is very nuanced. The decisions that we make regarding candidates to support or what religious community to belong to, if any, are often very multifaceted and supportive of an individual's experience. And maybe that decision was made because the thought process is, that's what my parents believe and what their parents believed, and I love them, so they must be right. And I'm going to carry that forward and model that same belief for my children and grandchildren. It could just be that simple. It could also be a very fluid belief that continues to morph and develop over time. Those are the best ones, in my opinion, and in my own personal experience. When I don't have such a firm grip on my beliefs and I don't become attached to them as part of my very identity, then I am far less insulted that others don't view the world in exactly the same way that I do. Because that's what we do. When we have the perception that when someone believes something differently than you do, or supports someone that makes your skin crawl, we take it personally. We make it about us personally, and it is not. It is not, as long as you choose to believe that it is not. The other person may just be thinking, well, I can't stand you because you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Muslim or whatever it may be. They may be thinking that, but you don't know what the hell they're thinking. They may be waving signs or saying all of the offensive words out loud, but you still don't know what's in their heart. You don't. They could be saying those things to get attention from others and nothing more. We don't know. So viewing them, other people, as the opposition automatically sets you up to launch an offensive assault or take a defensive stance and establish that victim mode you're likely to slide into, fight or flight. That's what we tend to do with the opposition. And listen, it takes far more energy to push back or resist than it does to just release your hold on it, whatever it is, whatever that viewpoint that someone else has that doesn't align with your own. It is far more productive and freeing to just allow other people to be who they are, to say what they will, to do what they will do. And a lot of that stems from what they believe. Yes, it does. And it probably took a long time to get there. Just like your own beliefs were formed over many years, and they may have evolved over time, and they may have morphed into something completely different than where they began. And most of us have had experiences in changing a belief if we want to improve our lives in some way. And it doesn't have to be in the realm of politics or religion. At one point, you may have believed in Santa Claus, and you may have been rightly pissed off to find out that was a lie that you had been fed for years. It may have taken you some time to forgive your parents. Not everything we believe is fact. Not everything we believe is true. But when it's a deeply held belief, it becomes true and factual in our own personal reality. It doesn't matter if it's a real thing in the world. Think Santa Claus. While we believe it is true. And it may take a lot of swaying to convince you otherwise. You'll call all your friends liars. You'll stomp off and you'll sulk. You'll cry to your parents. You might have gone through some things when you found out Santa Claus wasn't real. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you are finally confronted with an alternate reality to the one that you have previously bought into. Some of us are stubborn AF and might even decide that we're going to cling to that Santa Claus fantasy forever because it's harder to imagine a reality without his existence. That's always an option. Plenty of us will make that choice. Maybe not about Santa Claus, but about something in our lives. Plenty of us will make that choice. Now, I'm really leaning heavily into the political aspect this week because the midterm elections are right around the corner. The rhetoric is heating up, as it always does, and it is the perfect recipe for arguments with family and friends. That is why I wanted to address this subject today and why I want to continue it next week online and in a more interactive format. Before I close this episode, however, I want to clarify that there are aspects to our election process in the U.S. where people get involved and actively engaged in rallying people to vote, in volunteering for organized efforts like door knocking and phone banking, in signing up to work the polls themselves. To be clear, I have the utmost respect for those of you who actively engage in the political process. I truly do. Because with most of these activities, you are actually agreeing to try to persuade others to change their hearts and minds. And as I've just outlined, that's a very difficult thing to do. So I honor and appreciate the amount of emotional energy that it takes to do these things. Mad respect. If, however, you have not signed up for any of these or similar activities, it is not necessarily your role to convince your family and friends to change their minds about who they plan to vote for. You may feel very passionately about a certain cause or several. I know that I do. I feel very passionately about some very crucial causes that not everyone else is going to agree with. May not be crucial to them. I have a high degree of confidence that all of my family members and most of my friends already know my position. I am more of a model the way type of person because, hey, this is how I see the world and it's what I believe. You can come along or not, it's all good, and we can still be friends. Too many of us are losing relationships over political leanings, and that division is only going to weaken our humanity, the collective. We get mad, we get offended, we pass judgments on others, all because of what they believe the right thing to do is. And when we bring our passion to the table with our family and our friends, we are generally coming from a place of trying to save them from making a mistake, trying to prevent them from doing the quote-unquote wrong thing. Well, those of us who are parents will be happy to relay that we can do that all day, but free will is always going to exist, no matter what you do or say. Mistakes will be made. Regrets will bubble up to the surface. That's life. That's how this works. That's how we learn. We don't always learn through persuasion. Sometimes we don't believe it until we experience it for ourselves. So I am happy to share my views and positions when people are open to hearing them. And when they are not, well, I just let them keep their different beliefs. As Rumi says, on a day when the wind is perfect, the sail just needs to open and the world is full of beauty. Today is such a day. Yeah, just open up that sail. Do it when the wind is perfect. Don't try to force it when the climate isn't right, and you'll be fine. It may seem that we have lost the ability to hold conversations around civil discourse, if we ever really had it. That the moment there is disagreement, an argument ensues. It does not have to be that way. Take your emotion out of the equation and calmly explain your position. Or don't. You can always change the subject. Just remember that covering your eyes doesn't make you disappear. And their beliefs aren't necessarily opposed to your own. They are just different. Notice the language that you use. It does tend to set the tone for us. Pay a little attention to the words that are swimming around in your brain or floating with the breeze. I do hope you will join me next Wednesday to dig in further on this topic in an interactive format. I'll share some more mistakes that we tend to make around election season. Remember, I only gave you one today, but it was a big one. It's the one that's in the title of this episode. If you aren't already subscribed to this podcast, please do so. That way you will get notified of my bonus episode when I release the sign-up link for our interactive experience. Or join the What Lights You Up private Facebook group. Link is in show notes. The Let Them series kicks off next week and runs through November. I hope to see you there. Light up. Shine on.